David Barry from Jewish Online Magazine. Our special guest today is Joseph de Haan, and he is founder and CEO of Eden Change. Good afternoon, Joseph, and thank you for joining Jewish Online Magazine.
Good afternoon, and thanks for interviewing me.
Joseph, can I begin by asking, you were born in France, weren't you?
Yes, indeed. I was born in France 42 years ago now. I was raised there. I did all my studies. And up until 5 years ago, where my wife and I decided to settle in London. I actually came a few years before that, in 2004. I did an MBA here in London, and this is how I got used to know London, and we really found substantial differences between the way people live in France and in London. So we decided to give it a go, and since then we've been very happy and pleased here in London.
Were your parents born in France?
My parents were part of the North African immigration, Jewish North African immigration. They migrated to France in '67, and therefore they were not born in France.
What was your motivation to come and live in England?
Mainly a job opportunity, and we wanted to go for a change. I had lived all my life in France. My wife is Israeli. When we married, we spent 11 years in France as well, and she kept saying that France was okay, but we couldn't see ourselves staying in the long term. Her, especially coming from Israel, she was used to a different way of life, and therefore living in France as a Jew was okay, but to some extent quite difficult to express yourself as a Jew. And therefore, when I got a job opportunity in London, the decision was, I wouldn't say easy, but it didn't take us a lot of time to actually accept the proposition and move.
Do you think subconsciously you came to England not only because of the job opportunity, but because maybe it wasn't good to be a Jew living in France?
There was a bit of that, but when we moved to London, we didn't know exactly what to expect. So it was not the primary factor, yet we were very much hopeful that we would be able to live as Jews fully, as opposed to what we had in France. A simple example, not many people actually go with a kippah in the street, let alone a talis on Shabbat. You don't see that. Even rabbis of community, they don't recommend it because they know there is a danger.
The rabbis don't recommend wearing kippots in the streets
they recommend to
in France.
They recommend to be conspicuous, to be discreet, and not to overtly show signs of Judaism, because there are many problems, anti-Semitic attacks. Looked at the statistics. Actually, in 2010 there were less than 1,000 anti-Semitic attacks, which is huge.
In France?
In France. France has been traditionally has had some anti-Semitic problem. There were the terrorist attack in 1918 on Copernic Street, and in 1982 Rue des Rosiers Street, where there were also a number of dead people there. And Ilan Halimi, a young Jew, was beaten up and tortured to death in 2006. Very recently, the Toulouse attack, which left 4 innocent people dead. It's always been in the background, and you could see the reaction of the governments and authorities very much revolting themselves, but then nothing happens really. It's not followed by clear actions, and therefore there is a feeling that the Jewish community is almost left alone with its own problems and with its own difficulties to tackle.
Do you still have family in France?
I still have family. I've got my sister there and a number of uncles and aunts.
And what was their reaction when that terrorist incident happened in Toulouse a few months ago?
I think that not only in France but all over the world, people were shocked by what happened. I was as well shocked, but not so much surprised. Not so much surprised.
Why?
Because we knew that there is a latent anti-Semitism, there is a security problem. For a number of years now, all schools have always been protected by security cars, police cars. So that tells you that there is a threat, there is a risk. At the same time, the security is quite loose, and therefore we could expect that something, not at this scale, unfortunately, but something could happen. So that's why I was not so much surprised. Nevertheless, I was very shocked.
Do you think that that was a catalyst for many French Jews to say, that's it, I've had enough, I'm going to live in England, I'm going to go to the United States or Israel?
There has always been a steady flow of aliyot of French Jews. There have been a number of problems for Jews actually to leave France. One of the main problems was the language barrier, which and historically the immigration from North Africa came with one language, which was French, and didn't necessarily learn another language or particular qualification, and that has always been a problem for people to be able to migrate. It's less true with the younger generations, where the English language becomes more prevalent. However, in the past 10-15 years, the French community in Israel has strengthened, and that has allowed people who traditionally couldn't leave France because of their language problem now settle more and more. Looking at the numbers, we're talking about 1,000 to 2,000 people leaving France every year. It is still small in numbers, but it's fueled from time to time by events such as Toulouse. In 2002, during the French presidential election, the far right actually got into the second tour, and we saw a surge of people making Aliyah because they were very scared. I believe that this threat in 2002 pushed French people to try and buy properties in Israel just to prepare the future, just in case.
Do you think anti-Semitism is endemic in France?
It's not endemic, it's quite contained because there are opposing forces, really opposing forces. There is a strong parallel with what's happening in Israel and the Palestinians. And
because there's a strong Muslim population, isn't there?
There is a Muslim population. There is also a large part of the French non-Muslim population looking at what's happening with the Palestinians and trying and connecting with that. And there is an amalgamation between Jews and Israelis, and therefore French Jews are the primary target whenever something happens in the Palestinian territories. And that, I think, fuels anti-Semitism more than anything else.
And when you came to England, as a Frenchman, did you find settling in England easy?
Absolutely. I remember my first Shabbat actually in London. My wife and I came to Kinloss, and after the morning service, we already had a free invitation for Shabbat, and we found out.
But was that the Jewish community, or was it the Anglo community?
The Jewish community had a very welcoming and open-minded approach to.
I was wondering, perhaps if you'd have been welcomed from an Anglo community rather than the Jewish community.
I found, with the insight, I find actually the Anglo community very much encompassing, embracing, and more open-minded with regards to differences. France is a very secular society, and as such, people tend to reject differences, cultural differences or physical differences. That's very much prevalent. I find in the UK, people are more respectful of differences. I can, for instance, conduct all my business with my kippa on. I meet CEOs, CFOs of large corporations, and there is no problem at all. A small indicator whenever I have to conduct a meeting, whenever we need to eat, people keep asking what are my dietary requirements, which simply does not happen in France.
Joseph, that's amazingly encouraging for people to hear this, Joseph. So when they see this video clip and they hear your comments that you can wear your kippah in the business world without any problem, that's very inspiring.
Yes, and I'm not an exception. I can see many of my Jewish friends in the city, in banks, in large corporations wearing their kippah, organizing minyanim services during the afternoon. And that happens, with a lot of respect for any type of people, whatever their cultural background, their religion. And I'm very much hopeful that it will actually come to France one day.
If you had the opportunity, would you go back and live in France?
Probably not. Probably not. First of all, because our children are now well settled, and it's very disruptive for them to move from one country to the other. When we moved from France, they were not speaking a word of English. It took them a year to be able to fully contribute in class and really make friends. And that's probably one of the reasons. Now going back to France now wouldn't make sense. I think
because of the anti-Semitism as well.
It is growing. There is also a large proportion of young Jewish who marry out. 40%. Figure says 30% of people marry out, and that's
30% of French Jewish. 40. Wow.
40% of
that's
French
high
Jewish.
Statistics, isn't it?
It's a high statistics. At the same time, it's a community that is strengthening in its Jewish values. You can see a lot of people doing teshuvah. Yet they have difficulty to live their Judaism fully because of the fact that they can't go with exterior signs outside. They can't live fully, and that's a tension. So with regards to us, we are very much happy in London, within the community, and we don't think about coming back to France.
Can I thank you for all those answers about France and Jewish people living in France, Joseph. Thank you for that. Can I ask you about your role as founder and CEO of Eden Change?
Eden Change is a personal project which I had in my mind for a number of years, which was very much about leaving the corporate world, having spent 15 years working for a telecommunications company in Europe. And I wanted to do something really for myself. And so Eden Change is really about helping mature corporations doing innovation, developing new products and services through startup and venture companies. And behind that, there is a real passion for innovation, also a strong focus on Israel, which happens to be a leading country for innovation. And that allows me to actually join my passion for Israel and for innovation with the work. So I very much enjoy it. I do help corporations to understand where the market goes, what people do, what are the latest trends in technology, and to be able to capture part of that value so that they can make successful businesses. That's what Eden Change is all about.
And have people still got the passion and energy, considering the economic situation?
Absolutely. You find two types of population. You find risk-averse corporation, very much focused on generating cost savings and waiting to see a better outlook. And you find very innovative people willing to take risk, developing new products and services, investing in people as well, so that they can appear as very innovative and appeal to a large customer base. So I'm very much hopeful that innovation will be embraced by more and more corporations, because people start to understand that this is the lifeblood of the company. Without new products and services, you cannot generate new revenues, you cannot make your employees and your people happy, and therefore it's a virtuous cycle.
Can you tell Jewish Online Magazine viewers, Joseph, about any exciting projects that you might be involved in, obviously respecting confidentiality, of course?
Sure, I can talk about a project which I did last year, which was very close to my heart because it was for an Israeli company, a leading company in the software of gesture recognition. And I organized a strategy workshop for them to understand where they should actually take their business moving forward. They raised $9 million from Intel Capital, and the big question was, what are we going to do with those $9 million? Which market are we going to target? So they asked me to come to Jerusalem, which was very nice and pleasant, for 2 days and organize this strategy workshop and decide exactly which market they were going to focus. And what came out of this workshop is that the gaming industry is thriving, and therefore they are putting a lot of focus in developing interfaces where you can control the games with your movement, but also rehabilitation health, where people who have been, just say, hit by stroke need to do some rehabilitation, and the mere fact that the software can recognize movement and people can see themselves in a TV screen really helps people getting on much faster in terms of recovery. And so that's one of the exciting projects I did recently.
And in this week's Torah portion, Hashem tells us that the 7th year, the farmers should have a whole year of Shabbat, a whole year of rest, and leave the land fallow. Do you think sometimes business people, employees, employers work too hard and don't have enough rest and spend enough time with their family or doing community work? Do you think perhaps maybe some business people just live and drink and rest work?
Yes, that's absolutely true. And again, in that space, there are leading companies like Google, for instance, who have understood that a happy employee is a very productive employee, and that there needs to be a balance. Okay? So, for instance, at Google, it's well known that employees spend 80% of their time on their duties, their work duties, but actually they've got 20% where they can do their own projects. And a lot of the products and services that Google has developed come from their own projects. So picture this, you are in a large campus with a lot of facilities, fitnesses and parks where you can get your children with you, and your wife with you at the same time, and you interact with the corporate world at the same time, and yet you produce a lot of innovative services. So the concept of Shemitah, transposed to the corporate world, does make sense. I mean, a lot of what you find nowadays in our society comes from the Torah. The Yovel year, or the fact that every 50 years property has to come back to its original owner, is a concept that we find also here with leasehold, the leasehold concept, and it has proven very successful.
Joseph de Haan, founder and CEO of Eden Change, thank you for joining Jewish Online Magazine, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, David.